don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes. Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
Hello, everyone. It's weird. How come y'all can't see me? Okay, maybe I'm on the camera. Let me see. Let's see here. All right, guys. It's always something with going live. That's why I don't like going live. But hello, everyone. I don't know why y'all can't see me. That is so weird. Okay, guys, at least you can hear me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my camera and why y'all. I think I figured it out. Okay. I think I got it, y'all. I think I had my camera off. I didn't realize it was a little slide button here. But y'all, we need to get into this situation with Diddy here. What's going on? I think I slid my camera off and don't know how to slide it back on. Okay, wait a minute. I think I got it, y'all. I think I got it. All right, well, let's see here, y'all. Okay, let me figure out what's going on with my camera. But anyway, y'all, we got to get into what's going on here with this Diddy situation. I couldn't do another video. I said I need to jump on and be able to talk to y'all because it's just too much information for me to try to put together a video. So I said, listen, I'm going to just jump on and we're just going to talk. So y'all probably already know that he was denied bail. And I was like, wow. And we're not sure if he's actually going to get bail. That could happen in the near future. Who knows? But if you guys have been, watching the news or anything with regards to that, then you know that one of the reasons why they're saying is that they don't want him to get bail is because they saying, listen, this man is rich. He could possibly, run. He could evade the law. So they like, look, we don't want him to get bail. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with that. This is definitely reminding me of a Cosby, kind of situation. It is definitely reminding me of the R. Kelly situation. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about is I was like, did his previous lawyer even like him? Because I am no lawyer, but this to me is common sense. If somebody sues you, obviously you can sue anybody. It is, what that means is they're saying you did some kind of damage to them. And in order to make them whole, they want you to pay. Well, it becomes complicated when the act that they're accusing you of was actually criminal. So when he decided to pay the money, in my mind, I'm like, is this dude crazy? Because ultimately, although, they signed these disclosures basically saying that he didn't admit to, anything, generally, when someone decides to pay a lawsuit, we always say that it's because they did it. So again, I'm not a lawyer, but these are basic things that I just don't understand. I'm like, this dude basically paid her saying that really what she was saying is true. So there's no way to kind of get around that to say, oh, she, I didn't do any of those things. I just paid. That just doesn't make sense. And I'm just wondering, I'm like, I don't think his lawyer really liked him for real. We got lawyers out here representing people and they just want a check. So I feel like his lawyer probably just wanted a check and didn't represent him well, because anytime there's a criminal offense, people can be called to testify. So it doesn't matter if you agree to pay them or if they agree to make it go away, because whenever it's considered criminal, they can be called to testify. So I always wonder, I'm like, why did he settle with her, and then now he's saying he's not guilty? Make it make sense. So one of the things he could have had her do is amend her complaint, but because all of that information was out there, it's basically like he did it. So I just never understood that. So where he's finding himself right now, guys, is there's a lot of information where different people are suing him. Y'all can believe all of those people that's suing him, that holds absolutely no weight. The weight of this entire indictment is based on Cassie's statements alone. Now, obviously, they're saying they have these witnesses, and it could be, that they have these people and they just don't want to put it out to the public. But I believe that Cassie is definitely their number one witness, which I don't understand. Like, dude, if you said that, you settled with her, to come back and say you didn't do this, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, Diddy has this, persona of, scaring people. People don't like him. So I just feel like this is just probably his karma, because there is a lot of information that's coming out, with regards to, and I don't know if his lawyer is just saying this because we really don't know what's true. We know that a lot of the stuff that's being said about Diddy has been said for years. So this is not like information that, like, I've heard stuff about Diddy. I've never met him. But what I'm saying is, the stuff that we're hearing about him is just stuff that, people have been saying, but they've always associated it with a party. My first time hearing about the freak off was obviously in Cassie's complaint. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how this is going to turn out for him. So I'm not going to sit up here and lie. But what I do have, this is the actual document that they made available to the public. And these are also the grand jury charges in terms of the different counts. As you guys know, he has been charged with, I believe it was 3 counts. One count being the racketeering conspiracy. And with that one, what they're saying is, they're saying for decades, he has abused, threatened, coerced women and others around him to basically fulfill his sexual desires, is what they're saying. And they're saying that he used others to protect his reputation and conceal the bad things that he were doing. And again, this is not our first time hearing about this. If y'all remember, Diddy had gotten in trouble. I don't know if it's I think it's been a decade or even more ago, when there was that shooting, and they said that he had somebody else to take the fall for him at that time, and he actually beat that. So they're saying this man relied on his employees, resources, and all people around him to actually conceal and control what he was doing. They're also saying that he created a criminal enterprise. So this is a man who is a millionaire with lots of money, and they're saying he created a criminal enterprise. And I'm shaking my head because I'm like, Ninja, people are working, trying to make a living for themselves, and this is the only thing you can find to do with your time. So I was just like, this is absolutely crazy. So they're saying he created a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. So it's just like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. They are saying that he operated his businesses that was headquartered in, in Manhattan. He also had the Los Angeles location, and this was under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and then Combs Global. They are saying that he had the record label and apparel line, and we all know that he had that alcohol beverage, that he was marketing. And then they're saying he had a marketing agency and then a television network and a media company. So this is a lot of information. They said at all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, they list his aliases. They said the defendant engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. They said this abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. That's what they're saying. They said as a part of his pattern of abuse, they said Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sex activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his discretion, direction, they made arrangements for the women and the commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. Okay, so they said that Combs ensured that the participation from the women, by and amongst other things, that he would furnish narcotics to them, and he would control their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. And guys, this is where I'm gonna need y'all help, because I'm a woman, obviously, but I don't understand. I'm reading this, but this is really difficult for me because I don't understand how people can be so wanting to be, famous so much that they would do anything. Because when I'm reading this, my thoughts is I believe he definitely had to do some force, but there had to be some willing participants. Now, I don't think Diddy came with a bus and put a bunch of girls on there. So this had to be some type of situation where they were consenting, and then sometimes they wasn't consenting. Because, y'all got to understand, there are a lot of people out here, and I'm just speaking of women, I'm sure it's men too, that want to jump on somebody's bus as long as they got money. So I believe that with this, they were consenting, but then sometimes they probably just didn't want to do it, because I'm positive that if this is what he was doing, you kind of knew, at some point what the requirements were. So they are saying physical abuse by Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, he got all these aliases. The defendant was recurrent and widely known. Now, that's true because I heard about it and I ain't never met the man. So they're saying people knew about this and did nothing. And that's true, because that's just the world that we live in. They're saying on numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, they said Combs assaulted women by and amongst other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at and kicking them. Now, I believe that. I absolutely believe that. These assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016. Now, this was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. Now, I don't know if you guys saw that video. And if you guys were paying attention to my introduction, what I said is a lot of this is really centered around that Cassie situation. What they're referring to in this complaint is that video that went viral where we saw Combs running out of the room and he was kicking and punching. That was Cassie. So this is who they're referring to in this complaint. And as his lawyer is stating that, in so many words, that's the witness that they're referring to. And that's what I was saying. If he didn't do these things, why did he, it makes him look guilty while he's saying that he's not. Okay. So a lot of this is not adding up. Now, it goes on to say when a member of the hotel security staff intervened, they're saying that Combs attempted to bribe and silence the staff member, where we done heard that he just be bribing people. So that is what they're saying in this complaint. They're saying, but this is the thing though, whoever he bribed, that video got out. So I guess he wasn't paying those payments because we got to see that video. Now they're saying that Combs use his business, including several employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and his commercial sex. They're saying that those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Now, I don't know, how you guys have been following this story, but if you guys recall, somebody that worked for him had also filed a lawsuit against him. So one thing we can definitely say about these lawsuits is they similar. So while we don't know every intricate thing that happened, some of this he had to do. Like, I mean, he had to do something. Like, I don't believe that people are just making up stuff on him. And that's why I don't understand now he wants to say he's not guilty. So I hope he got a whole lot of evidence, because I don't know. He looks guilty. Now, they're saying from at least in or about 2008 on or about the date of filing of this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendants, and others, known and unknown, they were members and associates of a criminal organization. So what they're saying is his businesses is a criminal organization. Now, hey, I don't know. That's what they saying. They said members and associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of selling booty. Y'all know what that means. Coercion and enticement to engage in selling booty, narcotics, offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Now, y'all, this is just crazy. So they saying this man, I mean, he involved in selling booty. That's what they saying. The Combs enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 of the United States section, and they're giving you the statute, that is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. They're saying the Combs enterprise consisted of Puff Daddy, who is the defendant, but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment. And then they're just listing all of his companies is what they're doing. So they're basically saying that his enterprises is basically a criminal organization. Now, I'm just wondering how much money he made on this criminal organization, because I thought the man was like an entertainer, and that there was that information out there where he had stole so much money from his artists. So I'm just trying to find out, like, how much money did he make? And once we get into this complaint, they talk about seizing his properties, and I'm just like, he just done messed up his entire life. The Combs enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objective of the Combs enterprise. So basically what they saying is, I mean, he was pretty much in charge of people, had them do whatever it is he wanted them to do. Now, what they're saying is that he engaged in activities that affected interstate and foreign commerce. So they saying he was all over. He was, all over. The Combs enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. They said at relevant times, relevant to this indictment, that Sean, the defendant and leader of the enterprise, engaged in these activities. Now, they say this many times in here about that they participated in unlawful activity. So I'm not going to continue to read that. So let's get into something different. Oh, so they talk about the purposes of the Comb enterprise, and I believe they're going to say the same thing. Yeah, they say that over and over. So I'm going to kind of skip that because a lot of this stuff in here is really redundant. Okay, let's get into, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to read this because a lot of this is redundancy. Let's skip a lot of this. Let's see here. I'm skipping some of this because, okay, let's go. Let's start here because a lot of it is they're just saying the same stuff over. Now, in this paragraph on this is page 6, it says, Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs businesses to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Okay. It says Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended SEX acts with male commercial SEX workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, the freak-offs. The freak-offs, the freak-offs. Now, the freak-offs, they're saying, were elaborate and produced SEX performances that Combs arranged, directed, they talking about the man masturbated, oh my goodness, during and often electronically recorded. Now, they said in arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, they transported and caused to be transported these SEX workers, and they did it across state lines and internationally. And that is where the feds come in, because it was across state lines, which it could mean all over the world, which mean that is why this is a federal case. Now, freak-offs occurred very regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and oftentimes involved multiple commercial SEX workers. Y'all, I ain't never heard of a commercial SEX worker. What is that? Now, during these freak-offs, they said Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to the victims, and this was to keep them obedient and compliant. And this is where, y'all, I be having a hard time because I'm like, how did you get there to a freak-off? I'm just trying to figure out, like, how did that even happen? Like, we missing something here. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in these acts with these commercial workers. Now, after the freak-offs, it seems like that he was sending them. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. A lot of people do this, especially people that, go out and get drunk. They'll get IV fluids. They do that down here in Georgia. Like, I'm not a heavy drinker, but I know people that do, they will get IV fluids to recover. So this is what's in here. They're saying that they would use IV fluids to recover it. That's just what rich people do. That's what they do. Now, members and associates of Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, they talked about this already. But this is a little bit detailed, and they talk about the security staff, the household staff, and then personal assistants, as well as other Combs business employees. They also facilitated these freak-offs by and among other things, booking the hotels for the freak off, stocking the hotels in advance with the freak off supplies, including the drugs, y'all, the baby oil, the lubricant, the extra linen, the lighting, cleaning the hotels after the freak off. Woo, child, what in the world is going on? This is just okay. So, yeah, so this is what I don't understand. And y'all, please help me. So, you apply for a job, right? You work in a job, you've been working for whoever for however long. At what point do you get involved in this and you just go along with it? Listen, I don't get it. That's why I'm lost, because I'm like, is these people slow? Like, I'm just not understanding. Like, you work for somebody, so you were a house manager or whatever you were doing. How in the hell did you get yourself involved in a criminal enterprise? Because listen, if I felt like my safety was at jeopardy, as soon as we make it back to wherever we going, you ain't gonna ever see me again. So I'm kind of like struggling with like how these people manage to get themselves in this type of trouble. And I'm now speaking of the people that work for him. Like, how did you get yourself into this type of trouble? So they're saying that, so I'm going to skip this part because they're strictly talking about, the employees helping to facilitate these sort of events. I mean, I guess that, this was part of their job. This is crazy. So let's see. Okay, so they're talking about in this one how he brandished and carried firearms, and what they also stated, and they kind of kept this quiet, when they raided his house, y'all, they found all type of AR-15s and all of the what do I want to call it? The firearms that they found, y'all, they didn't have serial numbers on it. So, I mean, I'm going to leave that to y'all imagination. So you kind of know what that means. If it doesn't have a serial number, it could only mean one thing, that it was obtained illegally. And it's just like, this dude is a millionaire. And these are the type of things that he is engaging in. I'm like, in my mind, I'm just hearing like, dude, you got some mental issues that are unaddressed, because this don't even make no sense. To put your he still has, the twins, I think they're 17, to put them in this kind of a situation. They don't have their mom, and now you in jail. Y'all got to be careful about the men that you date, because I'm just like, this shit is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, so listen to this. They said when employees witnessed his abuse or others, that he would threaten them by his authority, and also, to mess up their reputation. It says Combs and members and associates of his enterprise engage in violence, threats of violence, threats of financial reputation harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included kidnapping and arson. They kind of talked about that earlier. So let's kind of get going here. Let's see. Okay. It says on phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of his enterprise, among other things, provided victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. And that just, I mean, it's basically saying that you saw something. So what they do is go back behind you and say, oh, that's not really what happened. So, I mean, I get it. Okay, this is what they're saying. So let's see, what else are they saying? Because I don't want to keep reading the same thing. So this is the rec. Okay, so this is page 9. I just want to scroll up for a second, y'all. 9. Okay, so we read the one. Okay, that one. Let me go back to page 9. Because some of this is kind of redundant. I don't want to keep reading the same thing over and over. If y'all see, they kind of say the same thing over and over. So I'm not going to read this. It's the same thing. This is the same thing. They're talking about pretty much the same thing that I've already read, the same stuff. Okay, let's read this. This talks about the notice of special sentencing factor. They're saying from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowing. So they're talking about the same thing, that he was recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting. So it's kind of like they're saying the same thing over and over. So let's go to count 2, where they talk about that sex trafficking by force, fraud, and corrosion that I can never say. So they're kind of saying the same thing over and over. As y'all notice, it's like I'm reading the same thing. So from at least 2009, and if y'all, the reason why, I don't know if you guys caught on, but they continue to say 2009. So 2009 is the time that, around the time he met Cassie. That's why I keep saying that Cassie is their number one witness. Yeah, so we know that. So it says from at least in or about 2009 and up into including 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean, the defendant, in and affecting, so they're saying he was all over. He knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, provided, obtained, advertised, patronized, and solicited by means a person knowing in a reckless disregard for the fact that means a force, threats, of violence, fraud. Okay, so this is kind of the same stuff. So let's get to. So, okay, y'all. So this is pretty much it. I mean, they kind of say the same thing over and over and over again with regards to this indictment. It's kind of the same. I don't know if y'all kind of paid attention to that, but what they're saying is the same thing with regards to it. But what I want to kind of talk about, y'all, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? What I want y'all to see, though, is that they're not trying to let him out of jail, y'all. They're not trying to let him out of jail. Let me stop sharing my screen. They're not trying to let him out. In fact, at the end of that complaint that I just read, they're trying to say that he could have possibly bought properties with money that he obtained during these freak offs. Now, I think that's a little stretch. I mean, because we all know, people have been saying for years that he, stole money from his artists and all of that different stuff. And then even with that liquor business, I think they say he was making like $60 million a year or something. It was something huge, but they're trying to tie everything to this, to this sex crap, and they are trying to they're going to probably try to take his properties. Now, what his attorney did say, his attorney said that he owed $18 million on one of his properties, and his attorney said he actually paid it off with hopes of being able to secure a bond. Now, if you guys are, or if you're not familiar with a bond, what that is let's say you committed a crime, you're in jail. Instead of giving cash, you can say, hey, you can take my house. So his house is worth 50 million. They say he owed 18 million. He paid that off with hopes of securing a bond to be able to get out. But baby, that ain't gonna happen.
Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2000 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
Okay, y'all, wait a second. I'm not sure why this is. Let me just make it bigger. I'm not sure why it keeps cutting off here. Let's just try something else. Why is it doing that?
Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2000 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering.
Okay, y'all, that was the wrong video. I have another video and it's a little bit more detailed. So I thought that was it. That's not it. So there is a press conference where this guy and this who is he? He's like a federal prosecutor. They is not trying to let his tail out. And this guy goes into extreme detail where he talks about Diddy and what they found in his home. And I'm sorry, I thought I had that. So I'm going to go and bring that up, y'all, because it gets, when I was watching, I was like, oh my gosh. So he kind of talks about that, you know, the things that they found in his home. They go into the baby oil, child. I'm just like, this is too much. Like, this is too much. So give me a moment. I'm going to bring it up because it gets pretty in detail. Just give me a moment. I was wondering why they kept going off. I'm like, wait a minute, it's longer than that. But it ain't looking good, y'all. It is just not looking good. But we'll just wait and see what comes out. Let's just see. Here's one right here. Let me just see this one. All right, y'all, give me a moment here. But yeah, they're not trying to let him out. And they kind of, this guy goes into deep detail. Let me just bring it up. I thought I had the right one. But he goes into detail with regards to why Diddy is not getting out. And he kind of, names the guns and stuff that he had in his possession. So give me a moment. I thought I had that one. I'm going to bring it up. All right, y'all. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, y'all. So they is not trying to let him out. All right, I found it. Y'all. Just give me a moment. Just give me a second here. I found it. All right, I found it.
As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs's crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee. As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs's residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs's electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4-HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them. I also want to thank the dedicated case agents on the HSI Trafficking in Person Squad in New York. They have been with us since day one and have worked tirelessly on this investigation. They will continue to be invaluable partners to us. I also want to thank the incredible agents and analysts from SCNY who have also provided tremendous assistance on this case. I'm deeply grateful for their continued work. And finally, I want to thank the outstanding career prosecutors from SCNY who are handling this case. Meredith Foster, Emily Johnson, Chrissy Slavic, Madison Smizer, and Mitzi Steiner, and their supervisors, Jamie Backleeper and Jacqueline Kelly. They are members of the Civil Rights Unit in our criminal division. We created the Civil Rights Unit when I became U.S. Attorney. I'm deeply proud of their work on this and so many other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Aaron Katursky, ABC.
Thanks, Nick. Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized? by Sean Combs, and how many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Thank you. Julie Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Janet Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, they're different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
One more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the details. 2 questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? It's mentioned plural in the indictment, but can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to what we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points. But we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
Juliet Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his residences? And did he have locations where he kept them? And did they were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from. It's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that, I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it. That was at a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There is a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the cases of lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residence? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? So I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts along with magazines. ammunition loaded in them. So some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address or is your office concerned with Combs' safety in custody, given what happened with Epstein?
So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pretrial. And of course, the decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case. And I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that or that worked on the Maxwell case?
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity, and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm not going to be able to get into any sort of operational details as to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations. Well, I can't get into the charging decision. It is very meaningful to us that weapons were possessed, as we allege in the indictment. Part of the reason why this conduct was so pervasive and harmful was because victims and others didn't necessarily feel comfortable denying him his wishes, as we allege, because of the presence of firearms. I should leave it there.
Thanks. Last question, Jacob Shamison.
Jacob Shamsian, Business Insider. Thank you. Given that he's the sole defendant in this case and that you allege he's part of a conspiracy that involves members of his companies, do you anticipate a superseding indictment that bring allegations against other members of his companies or other co-conspirators as well?
I can't take anything off the table. Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing. And I think a lot of you who cover this office know that when we say such things, that developments are certainly foreseeable, but I cannot predict them sitting here today. All right, thank you, everyone.
Ooh. Y'all, this is, I don't know, y'all. We're going to have to, watch this and see what's going to happen. I feel like that it's going to be a lengthy trial as well. And thank you so much for the super chat, Teaching Beyond. I really appreciate you. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Like there is tons of information out there. But I can say it can really go both ways. Because I'm not really sure if they have actual witnesses or just people that say that they heard stuff, or if they were a witness. Now, y'all got to understand, with regards to the trafficking stuff, who are these people that said that they were actually trafficked? I mean, we know, that Cassie said this. We know some women have come out and said, that he has abused them. So I don't know. I'm going to be like following it just to see what's happening, because I feel like, maybe there's some information that we don't know about, because I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. As y'all heard in that briefing that prosecutor gave, he said that there could be other people. So, Holly Weird, like who was invited to these freak offs, like what they gonna say? I don't know. This is gonna be very interesting. I know people are scared and on eggshells because I think it's going to be a lot more information that's going to come out. If you guys recall, they actually said they had video of these freak offs. So, I mean, who's on those videos? You know what I mean? Like this is, I think it's going to be a lot of more people that may be implemented. Who knows? Diddy may just decide to take a deal. Like this is going to get crazy. Hopefully, it don't go as long as this Young Thug trial. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to get out of jail. And I'm going to tell you why. They're saying that, he may run. Well, I don't think that he's going to run, but what they're going to say and what they have been saying is they feel like he's going to intimidate witnesses. And if you guys, if you were listening to the news yesterday, what they're saying is he called one witness 54 times, that Kalina girl. So it's like they're trying to say that, they don't want him out because, for fear he may intimidate the witnesses, y'all. So we gonna follow it and just see where this goes. I said I'm gonna probably make a commitment to try to do lives a little bit more. One of the reasons why I decided to just come on and talk about this, because it was just too much to try to do a video. So I said I'm just gonna go on and kind of talk about it. But like I said, I will follow the story and then we'll just come back whenever there's some updates. But y'all take care and I'll see y'all later.